Hello, 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 YouTube family. Hello, and we are here tonight. We are here on this Friday night. I pray that you all have had an amazing day, a wonderful day. I have been kind of moving today, so I am so far behind tonight. But to God be the glory. We are here. Yes, we are here. And we're going to deal with some things tonight. And hey, I'm not going to go through those scriptures like that tonight. But where we'll be coming from is in 1 Samuel. You'll be able to find that through 16, 17, what we will be discussing tonight. Also 18, and you can read also about King David, and that's where we will be dealing from tonight. We will be dealing with some things tonight, you guys. Yes, there has been so much going on in this land, but one of those major things is a bad thing called domestic violence. And tonight we want to talk about domestic violence. It's nothing to take lightly. It's nothing to play with. There have been many people, as I shared with you guys last night, there have been many people who have not made it out like some of us. And I was saddened this morning to wake up to my daughter-in-law sending me something from Oklahoma about a young mother who had 2 sons who had found herself caught up in domestic violence, only to have one of the children's dad try to help her get her and the children to safety, only for that thing to turn out tragically. And it's sad that those babies lost their lives, that this young man lost his life, and then he took his own life. And now she's here to suffer. She's here still to grieve over her children, but also at the loss of one of her children's dad. And domestic violence doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care where you live. It doesn't care who your family is. Violence is just that, violence. But when it becomes domestic, with someone that you are in a relationship with, someone you are married to, that thing is dangerous. And that can be a Goliath in the lives of those who may not know how to get out, may not know how to fight, may not know where to turn, may not know what to do. And we know that David defeated the Goliath. Some of us got past the Goliath and we survived. But there are many who didn't make it out. And as the Lord instructed us last night with the lesson about how you are to treat your wife, the same exact thing goes with how you are to treat the one that you're dating. And if you don't know how to date right, if you don't know how to treat them right, if you don't know how to not hurt them, then you don't need to be dating. So tonight, and I will give you those scriptures again, those chapters. You need to read this. And it's 1 Samuel, you can go from 1 Samuel 16, 17 to 18. and you guys can read about Samuel and Goliath. I know it's time consuming tonight. It is kind of late, and I just wanted to come in and let the Father have his way. But at the same time, I'm going to do what I can to not prolong the time. So you guys can read that in your own time, in your spare time. Hey, it's good sometimes to get your own Bible and read. It says, instead of to show thyself approved, a workman needed not to be ashamed of dividing the word of God and the word of truth. So you guys need to study the word for yourself sometimes. So tonight I won't be doing all that reading. So what we'll do is we'll start to talk about King Saul and how David became who he was. So King Saul, he was king over Israel, and he was a man of war. He fought. He defeated and conquered a lot of the different people that in armies that they went against. But there was one particular Philistine that they could not get rid of. And they were all on different sides. But it was a giant whose name was Goliath. So David was the son of Jesse. He was the youngest son of Jesse of Bethlehem, Judah. And David was different than the other sons. So David, he worked in the fields. He worked he took care of the sheep. He took care of the flock. And David was young. He was a young, ruddy little boy. But they considered him as like an underdog. You know how people call you the underdog, or you're the weakest thing. You're the weakest thing. You're the smallest thing in the pack. You can't do this. You can't do that. But David was just the opposite. And excuse me, you guys, because I'm never this late in doing videos, and normally I'm getting ready to wind down. But hey, whatever God wants to do, we're going to do it. So David was a young boy. And David took care of the sheep, as I said, of his father. And David fought so many animals out there, lions and bears, just to protect the flock, to keep them from taking the flock. So David was being prepared. He was being prepared while he was out there. And his family didn't know what he was doing. They didn't know how he had fought. They didn't know how he had overstood what he had overstood. They had no idea what he was already doing. He was already being trained. He was already being prepared. He was already being made. And he was being ready for what was to come. And see, a lot of times when we're being taught how to prepare, how to be trained, how to be instructed, a lot of times we don't want to hear it. We don't want to do it. And we make our own decisions. We make our own choices. And sometimes those decisions and those choices are not what we need to do. They're not right for us. But we continue to do what we want to do because we think we know everything. So David's three oldest brothers, they they were behind Saul. They were behind Saul, and David would sometimes, go where they were, and David wasn't scared of anything. And so he heard how this uncircumcised Philistine was defying the army of the living God, and he became enraged. He was upset, and that nobody would take him on. So Goliath would taunt them, and Goliath would say things to them, and he would say to send a real man down to fight him and different things like that. But they were so afraid, they were so scared that they didn't go. Nobody could go. And just know, sometimes when you get in relationships, when you get into domestic violence, when you get into abusive relationships, sometimes you don't want to move. You don't want to leave. You don't want to go. Why? Because you're afraid. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to happen. So you stay. You don't move. You stay just where you are because you're afraid that something could happen to you. You're afraid that you could lose your life. So you stay. And that's how they were. They didn't want to move. They didn't want to die by the hands of Goliath. So they stayed. But see, David knew where his strength and power lied. His strength and power lied in the living God, the God of heaven. He knew that. He knew it was nothing that he did, but it was all what God did while he was out there protecting the flock, keeping the flock, keeping them from hurt, keeping them from danger. And see, a lot of times, a lot of people don't have anybody to keep them from danger, to protect them, to keep them covered, to pull them out. And when they do, sometimes it's done the wrong way. It's done the wrong way. When you don't understand what this thing is you're dealing with, sometimes you can do it the wrong way and not the right way. But see, David knew how to do it the right way. David knew who to do it with. He didn't choose to do it alone. He didn't choose to pretend as if he had his own strength. He had his own power. He had it all together. He didn't need any help. No, he knew where his help came from. And a lot of times, people are scared. They're afraid to even speak, to let someone know what they're in, how they're being done. They're afraid. So they keep quiet. They keep silent. They don't share it. So they hide behind the abuse, behind the things that's being done to them. And that's what Israel's armies was doing. They were hiding. They were afraid. But they didn't understand who was with them, who was fighting for them. But David, the little shepherd boy, he understood it. He understood it. And when none of them wanted to do anything about it, little old David wanted to fight big old Goliath. And there was a spirit a tormenting spirit, because the Spirit of God had left Saul. And the Lord sent a spirit to torment him. And every time that spirit would torment him, he needed something to soothe him down so that this spirit could leave him. And David could play the harp really well. And one of the servants told him that there was one who was skilled, also vigilant, and he was speaking of David. So Saul sent for him, and David would play his harp, and that spirit would leave him. It would leave Saul. And every time David would play, it would leave. And after a while, it was sent back to torment him again and to torment him more. Sometimes those spirits they come back to torment you. They come back to destroy you. They come back to hurt you. Because they've been sent. Not by God, but by the enemy. It was God, it was the Lord here, but not in a sense to where we are now. So, he asked if David could play for him and come to the palace and be there with him. Because he loved David. He had a love for David. And David became his armor bearer. The one to protect him. The one to shield him, cover him from danger. And a lot of times, we don't have anybody when we get into those type of relationships to protect us, to shield us, to guard us, because we are in need of being protected from the one that we have gotten connected to. And we don't understand. We don't understand how bad this thing can become. So he ended up being there with Saul, playing for Saul. But then all of a sudden, as he got to growing it, he became the warrior that he needed to become. He went and he told Saul while he was a little boy, he told him that he would go up and he would fight Goliath. So that's exactly what he did. He fought Goliath. They tried to give him a armor suit. They tried to give him a sword, but that was too big for him. It was too heavy for him. So he knew that wasn't his fit. He knew that he couldn't wear that. He knew that had no kind of, I'm trying to say, he knew that didn't fit with him. It wasn't a match for him. It wasn't what he needed in his space. It wasn't what he needed on his body. And that's what happens sometimes. We don't understand that sometimes people are not a fit. People are not what we think they are. We don't need people in our space. We don't need people in our lives. Why? Because we have to understand that everybody ain't for us. Everybody can't go with us. And David understood that I can't wear this. I can't fight with this. Because everybody's not there to fight for you. But they there to fight against you. They're there to try to make you do what they want you to do. They want you to do it their way or no way. So David took nothing but his staff, 5 smooth rocks, and a sling. And he went to battle to defeat Goliath. He took that sling and he ran toward that giant, and he popped him in the head, and he fell, and he got on him and cut his neck. See, that's what we've got to do as a community. We've got to cut the head. We've got to cut the neck off of this domestic violence, this Goliath. Because some people done got with some people who are not a fit for them, who are not a match for them, who they don't need to be assembled with. And we've got to learn to discern, to know when people are dangerous for other people before they get tangled up, twisted up, tied up in those things. I'm telling you from experience, I've gone through domestic violence. I talked to you guys about that last night. And we're seeing the rise of this Goliath like we have never seen